What up, great people? You know who it is and what it is. I am Mr. Darkeye. You tuned in to the Mr. Darkeye podcast right here on Anchor FM, New Soul Music Radio, the home of motivation to trust God and live your dreams. Giving a big shout out to my sponsor, the Super Icy Brothers Premium Frozen Dessert Shop, located at 742 North Anderson Road in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Pineville, North Carolina. The address is 11025 Carolina Place Parkway. Again, in Pineville, North Carolina. Please visit their website at supericybrothers.com for more information and the operation hours for those convenient locations. And when you go by there, tell them Mr. Darkeye sent you. Today, I just want to jump on here, man, and encourage y'all, and more importantly, motivate y'all, because there's so much that's needed in that space. Because I know how it is, I know how it feels, and of course, you cannot trust your feelings. Feelings are just an emotional place that is so misleading that we find ourselves in day to day, depending on what happens. You know, we in and out of our feelings. Sometimes we don't even know how we feel, and we let that control our actions. And that's a no-no. I'm gonna tell you that now, because I've been there and done that, you know, in my life. And I've learned not to let my feelings and my emotions dictate my movements and how I ultimately, you know, make decisions. So I want to talk to my people out there who keep quitting. You start something and you quit. Start something, you quit. And then you wonder why you ain't getting nowhere. It should be literally a no-brainer. You should be able to answer that question. I'm not getting anywhere because I keep quitting. And the question is, why are you quitting? I know why you're quitting. Because you had the idea of what the results should be and how long it was going to take. And that's the problem. You are concentrating on something that you have no control over at all. You have no control over the results, and you have no control over when those things happen. You have no control over what's ultimately going to happen and when it's going to happen. That's all God. That's all Him. Your job is to be obedient. That's it. Be obedient. And as I always talk about, it's about applying cash, commitment, availability, sacrifice, hard work. All of that is about being obedient. And then you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent with the cash. That's your only job. It's God's job to deal with the results and when it happens. Because here's the thing. The results is ultimately the consequences of everything. Like what you ultimately get. It's God's job to determine what you get. What you deserve. What the blessing is going to be. And when you should get it. Because we think we deserve this and at this time. We deserve this and at that time. We deserve that and at this time, however you want to look at it. But God knows what's best for us. What we should get and when we should get it. So you shouldn't even be concerned about that. Don't worry about the what and the when. Just concentrate on the who and what He wants you to do in the meantime. For an example, this podcast is motivation to trust God and live your dreams. I talk about my testimony and my story all the time about how I've been trusting God to live my dreams. Every time you see me on camera, every time you see me doing my podcast or see me doing anything, you know, my radio segment on Praise 100.9, spotlighting independent artists, you know, in the area and wherever. And what I do as a manager and consultant for independent artists, like this is me living my dreams, trusting God and living my dreams. So when you see it and you're exposed to it, you know that it's possible. You know it can happen. If God doing it for me, He'll do it for you. That's motivation. My story starts back in the day when an R&B group from the 90s got signed to a record label and had a hit record called Spend the Night. And that R&B group was In Phase. For those of you who are from Rock Hill and know the history on this, that was what I got exposed to help me know that it's possible for me. You know, I can do that too. You know, I can be successful in the music business as well. And that's where it started. That's what activated my faith and belief that I can be successful as well. So once you get exposed to something, you know, it changes your mindset. And for me, I just never stopped believing that I can be successful at doing music. And then God had so much more to introduce me to along the way. You know, I started interning at a radio station in Charlotte for Power 98 back in the day, early 2000s. And I got exposed to that life and never saw myself being in this media space. But here I am. I've been podcasting and doing this for 4 years now. In 2022, escalated. If you've been watching me and following me, all these celebrity interviews I've done, press conferences I've done, just big moments this year, and it all came from me just being obedient. So here I am. So for those of you who keep quitting every time you feel like things are not going your way and you're not getting the results that you want, just understand that you have no control over that. Your only job is to be obedient, to do what God has called you to do and live out your purpose. Fall in love with the process of it, because in the midst of all of that, that's where you are developing your character and everything that needs to be there in order for you to be prepared for the blessing that God has for you. And otherwise, if you're not prepared, that blessing will be a burden and there'll be no point. It's just like for some of you that's parents, if you got kids, young kids, 10, 11 years old, somewhere, you know, around that age. Now, you know, I know that there are some kids out there who actually are at that age that if you was to give them keys to a car and tell them to drive it, some of them can actually drive a car at that age. But we all know that wouldn't be wise to do, to give a 10-year-old keys to a car and tell them to go drive to the store and pick up some bread for you. That can end very bad. You know what I mean? Somebody can get killed. It could be tragic. Why? Because he got something too early. Something that could be a blessing that ended up being a burden, and very tragic situation. So that's how we got to look at it. We have to understand that things are not going to happen when we want it to. God's timing is everything. We have to make sure that we understand that God always knows what's best. We can only see to the corner. God can see around the corner. He knows what's ahead. He knows what's best for us. He knows what tomorrow holds, because he holds tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but God do. So we have to just trust him and just be obedient. Just concentrate on what you need to do, and let God do what God do, and watch how it all work out for you. And the ultimate results of it is going to be totally what's best for you, because God knows what's best for you. And you have to trust that. That's why I keep saying, trust God, live your dreams. Live your dreams is enjoying the process. Walking out your purpose. That's what it means to live your dreams. It ain't got nothing to do with what you drive, the house you live in, clothes you got on, shoes you got on your feet, restaurants you can go eat at, expensive vacations. None of that stuff ain't got nothing to do with the dreams I'm talking about. Living your dreams is living out the life that God intended for you to live. That's what living your dreams are. Okay? That's what it's about. So those of you who didn't know that, that's what we're talking about when we say live your dreams, living out your purpose in life, the life that God has always intended for you to live. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not saying there's something wrong with being able to do those things, go on vacation, wear some nice clothes, you know, have a nice house, nice car. I ain't saying there's anything wrong with that or you shouldn't have that, but that's not the purpose of the life that God has intended for you to live. Everything about the life that God has intended for you to live is about what's on the inside and not what's on the outside. God operates from the inside out. So it's all about what you feel and what you have. That's already in you on the inside. So the reason why a lot of y'all keep quitting when it comes down to you chasing your dreams and pursuing your dreams is because you want things done your way. You want the results when you want the results. You want specific results and when you want them. But you should just be concentrating on God, asking him to give you specific guidelines and directions. Ask him to tell you exactly what it is he needs for you to do, what you want to do. Now, you can tell God what you want, but at the end of the day, just know that he ultimately is going to decide what's best for you, though. Now, if what you want lines up with what he feels is best for you, then that's what it is. But understand that there's times you're going to ask for something and you don't get it. And it may not be that it's not necessarily best for you. It's just not time for you to receive it. So it's not a denial. It's just a delay. So just know that when you asking God for things. But before you ask him for anything, be sure to tell him thank you for all he's done. You understand? Because at the end of the day, he's an amazing God that's done so much for us, and we can't thank him enough. So we have to make sure that we at least acknowledge him for all he's done and acknowledge him for who he is before we start asking for stuff. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the message that I want to leave on y'all today. I believe I talked a little longer than I wanted to, but this was like me just in the spur of the moment, just wanting to encourage you and most importantly, motivate you to never give up. Stop worrying about things that is not in your control. Allow God to be God and do what God do. And we do what we do. Be obedient. You know what I mean? Trust in God. Wait on the Lord. And everything's going to work out. I promise you. You don't believe me? Continue to watch what God do in my life. You see where I'm at now? I wasn't here 4 years ago in this podcast space. Watch how he continued to elevate me because I'm humble enough to lift him up every time. That's what we doing, people, right here on the Mista Darkeye podcast. It's motivation to trust God and live your dreams. Trusting God is the hard part, but it's the most important part. All right? So, with that being said, make sure you tune in every time to get this motivation. Shout out again to my sponsor, the Super Icy Brothers. As God continue to shine light on me, I'm going to share this light with y'all every single time and hope that it inspires you and continue to motivate you. I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in again. See you next time.